Hey, Foot Clan, Lowe's is our new go-to destination for discovering the newest Craftsman products, including mechanics, tool sets, storage, and more, in-store and online. Like the 120-tooth ratchet has a 3-degree arc swing that lets you loosen or tighten bolts with less movement in those hard-to-reach spots. Plus, it comes in a gunmetal chrome finish that's not only sharp-looking, but it makes them corrosion-resistant. Shop the new home of Craftsman today at Lowes.com/footballers. That's Lowes.com/footballers.
Hey, it's Courtland Sutton, wide receiver for the Denver Broncos, and you're listening to the Fantasy Footballers.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast, coming to you from Draft.com Studios with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Welcome in. Tuesday, waiver day, trade deadline. So much going on in the fantasy football world. Thank you for joining us on the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Andy, Mike, and Jason back again. Now, I have it on good authority that Andy, Mike, and Jason will not be present for the Halloween show tomorrow. I don't know who.
You just Deon'd.
I did?
Yeah.
What did I? How do you Deon?
You third-personed yourself.
Oh.
You are Andy.
Okay. I'm not sure.
I have it on good authority that Mike won't be here either.
All I'm saying is we got a really special show tomorrow, and you won't be able
No, we don't.
Well, correct.
Yeah. We're not going to be part
Well,
of it.
Andy doesn't.
Brooks will be here.
Brooks will be here.
Oh.
Yes. Giamatti's dressing up as Brooks for tomorrow's show. So excited about that. And Baby Josh is going as himself.
Big
Diaper, Baba, Binky.
Yes.
So no change.
No change. Waivers on the show today. Quarterback streamers for the upcoming week. Big-time decisions to make in your lineup with all of the bye weeks. I know in a couple of my important leagues, I've got Saquon and Beckham and Mixon on bye.
Oh, my.
You've got no Zach Ertz this week. There are some big players missing, and we are going to help navigate you through those waters on the show today because that's what we do.
Yes.
We're very good in the water.
We're like fishmen.
Now, Jason, are you present?
I am, I'm totally present. Yes, I am here.
Not really jumping in?
Whew. Well, look, I'm still trying to stop sweating from the gym. That's my concentration. I'm also looking at this hot waiver wire show and trying to make sure that there's a couple wide receivers I'm toiling over. So I'm still mentally preparing myself for the goodness that's to come.
You can't start Ed Dickson in the wide receiver spot.
Oh,
I just want
watch me.
Actually, I would let you. That'd be fine.
Yeah.
If I was playing you. All right, follow us on YouTube if you want to see the Halloween show. YouTube.com/TheFantasyFootballers. Subscribe, click the bell. You'll know when it hits tomorrow. On Twitter, you can follow us at the FF Ballers. The website's thefantasyfootballers.com. And a reminder, footclanvote.com.
Yeah, baby.
Ooh, it is a day of the week. Let me go
It
there.
is a day of the week, and if you go to footclanvote.com, you can vote for us. It doesn't cost you anything. It's free, completely free. You can vote for us.
Well, a small bit of either your electric bill or your iPhone battery.
Oh,
That's
you're saying
that's what it costs because you need electronics to vote.
Do you use your electric bill? You associate that with your phone?
I just
Do
recommend
you charge your phone?
I recommend doing it from your work computer then.
Oh, perfect. Make the man foot the bill.
The local library. iHeartRadio Podcast Awards. We were nominated for the best sports podcast, and it would be pretty cool.
Yeah, help us out. Raise us up.
Trophies are fun. Trophies are fun. Monday night. Let's talk about the game. It was interesting, to say the least. The Patriots 25, the Buffalo Bills 6. The score betrays the reality of what happened in that game. If you want to know what happened in the game, you might want to stare at Tom Brady's box score. 0 touchdowns.
I thought he was bad for 3 quarters.
Yeah, look.
Comparatively to what we expect from Tom Brady. I mean, to be I know it's a division game, but your first 4 possessions or the first 4 times you scored to just walk away with a field goal. You're marching down the field and then just completely get shut down in the red zone. It was,
I'm going to give credit to the Bills
Sure.
on that because there were so many passes that they were fine to Gronk, to Edelman, all over the field, where the defender came in and got a hand in on that ball and was just making a play. I mean, Buffalo stepped up the first 3 quarters.
Well, now that Hugh Jackson has been fired, and also Todd Haley, by the way, and now that Gus Bradley was fired a couple years ago, I told these guys I need another really underdog, kind of generally hated coach, and I think Sean McDermott's my man.
Yeah,
I said it yesterday.
His record matches up with what you like.
Exactly. I like a very poor record, last place finishes. But here's the thing. He does find these little wrinkles to add to his defense. They've showed up in big games. Unfortunately, he has no offense whatsoever.
Correct.
And that's what ultimately cost them in the end. They had the defensive score by the Patriots because Buffalo was in this game until the very end. The Patriots outscored them 13-0 in the fourth quarter. But for fantasy purposes, it was great if you own James White or Julian Edelman, and otherwise it was pretty unfortunate for you on the Patriots side. And that includes Rob Gronkowski, who was heavily targeted, 8 targets but only 3 receptions, part of what Jason was saying with that defense that was finding a way to contain him. No touchdowns again. It was nice that he was on the field. And then Shady was just kind of the offense on the other end to the tune of 12 carries.
Oh, man, the beginning of the game
13 yards.
Was hilarious, where the Buffalo Bills were pulling plays literally from Tecmo Bowl, just doing everything they possibly could to get a spark on offense.
And McCoy made his fantasy hay in the passing game, 6 for 82. I saw somebody
throw him the ball more. It's
somebody
ridiculous.
tweeted free Shady.
Yes.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. All last night was freeing Shady. You can't free Shady. He was free. And then you gave him 10 people to tackle him on every play. You ran him in the Wildcat. I don't know what else you can do for Shady McCoy other than throw him 6 passes
more
and give him 12 carries.
You need to throw him the ball 10-plus times. On this offense,
you don't get that many chances. I mean, that's just the truth.
I mean, that's
you don't have the ball enough to give him 10 play unless he's 100% target share.
I don't think a free Shady doesn't look much different than this. Freeing Shady would be to send him out of town to the Eagles.
Yes.
That's how you free him. But he did everything he could do, and ultimately 10 in the box, doesn't work too good. You can one-on-one Zay Jones all day long. But any other thoughts from this game before we move on? There was the report that Josh Gordon had been tardy at least twice this past week, rumors that he was going to miss time, and he just started the game, and Bill Belichick threw that away. However, any small amount of smoke on Josh Gordon has to freak out a fantasy owner.
Certainly, especially when, look, the Cleveland Browns traded him away because of behavior like this. So if you hear, and there were reputable reporters reporting it, Bill Belichick said whoever reported that was wrong. So, we don't know for sure the answer, but, I lean that he probably was missing, late to some practices, did not get punished for it. And, but yeah, you got to be worried. I mean, I have been more against Josh Gordon from the beginning this year, and the issue is he is 1 strike away from being done completely.
He just needs that George Jetson alarm clock, where he's laying down and then it just dumps the bucket of water on his head, and then the bed tips him up and he falls right into the shower.
Yeah. It does all the things for you. And also
get that going.
Also, I need that. So one for Josh, one for Jason. Great idea, Mike.
I don't know if there's a player that's ever been teetering on the edge of irrelevance and fantasy
and greatness.
dominance at the same time, but Gordon really 4 for 42 last night. Still hasn't had that breakout game. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with him. Let's get into the news.
News and notes from around the league.
We had the Hugh Jackson firing on the show. Todd Haley was fired shortly after. So, and I'm fine with this. I think I don't know if the Browns keeping Todd Haley around was really the solution. He was in full control of the offense thus far this year, and ineffectively using Duke Johnson, not really putting Baker in a position to win. And Haley's now been fired in consecutive years, joining Mike McCoy in that illustrious category.
Was he fired last year or just let go? Like they just didn't bring him back at the end of the year?
Yeah, I mean, that there was a year's worth of controversy with him and Big Ben, and then they chose to not renew a contract with an OC. So, yeah, if you don't want to call it fired, that's fine. But generally,
I don't, because it's not being fired. It's just not being brought back.
Okay, all right, and that's what I would tell my wife if they let
I
me
didn't
go.
get fired. I just wanted to see other people.
In the NFL, if they're not happy with you, or I mean, if they're happy with you, they bring you back after a season. They weren't.
True.
Yeah,
And go ahead.
For I was just going to dive into the fantasy implications. What does this mean going forward now that you've got
you got Freddie Kitchens fever, Jason?
Freddie.
Gonna
Freddie
turn up the
Kitchens.
heat?
We should be familiar with Freddie Kitchens. He's been in Arizona from 2007 all the way until this past season. He was a longtime tight ends coach, then a quarterback coach. He was quarterback coach with Carson Palmer during his great season, 2015, 2016, moved over to running backs coach. So he's been kind of a positional coach for a long time, but he has not – this is a giant leap up. I mean, to go out there, to start being a play caller with no experience, I can't see this being positive for Baker Mayfield this season.
Well,
I think long-term –
and he's the one in charge of grooming Baker Mayfield. That's the goal here. And he has a good pedigree with Bill Parcells was the original person that hired him. He's worked with Zimmer. He's worked with Sperano. He's worked with a number of good people. But you're right. It's a big move up. You know, he comes from the running backs coach position. I mean, the only thing that I'm looking at here is, look, this team it's still a project, right? It's a long-term project. I want to know as a fantasy owner whether Duke Johnson's going to have relevance again this year.
Right.
You know, players that haven't had relevance. Can we look at Duke Johnson? Can we look at Landry being used the right way? What do we see from the offense? And do you view it kind of like in Arizona where it's like nowhere to go but up, or do you just see it as a neutral move?
I don't see this as nowhere to go but up. I think it's a neutral move. You're going to have some ups and downs because you've got talented pieces there with Jarvis and Njoku, Baker, more talented weapons. But it is crazy to think. I mean, look, when you have this level of mid-season turnover, it's not good for – I mean, there's just no way that when you say, okay, 3 weeks ago, you know, your starting running back was Carlos Hyde, your starting quarterback or your starting your head coach – your offensive coordinator, everything has changed there right in middle of the season. They're still a couple weeks away from the bye.
What about Duke Johnson, Mike?
I think it's more of the same.
Buccaneers coach Dirk Cutter announced Ryan Fitzpatrick is starting in Week 9. Fitzmagic is back.
Yeah.
Start your engines if you own Deshaun Jackson. Even Chris Godwin looks a little more interesting.
All three wide receivers from the Bucs get a boost.
Absolutely. This is going to be a very busy and great week for Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Is Ryan Fitzpatrick starting in 2 weeks?
Yes. I think Ryan Fitzpatrick is probably starting in 8 weeks.
Ooh.
Is Jameis Winston ever starting again?
Yeah, if Ryan Fitzpatrick finishes the season, then why would they
Winston, they won't bring him back.
On.
They won't bring him back. Ronald Jones suffered a hamstring strain. He's going to miss a few weeks. Sean McVay said Cooper Kupp most likely returns in Week 9 against the Saints.
That's great news.
Chris Thompson suffered a rib injury in the Week 8 victory, and Capri Bibbs suffered it.
Peterson pulling a Fred Jackson here.
If you are a running – well, I would watch out because if you're a running back on the Washington Redskins over the last 2 seasons, it is a minefield. I mean, it is – you better be looking over your shoulder.
Peterson needs to be wrapping those knees a lot.
I mean, he's already had
injury.
He just plays through it.
Yeah, Geis has gone down. P. Ryan, Kelly's gone down. Every running back not named Adrian Peterson over the last several years has gone down.
So we will
sell high ?
We have no trade deadline news as of this recording. The deadline is in a few hours here, and tomorrow's show will likely have some of that information because the deadline will be. Have passed, obviously. So Demaryius Thomas, Pierre Garçon, Golden Tate, some of the rumored names, we'll have all that news for you and all the fantasy.
And it'll be up a little bit earlier tomorrow and because of the special Halloween and the fact that the three of us aren't involved. The other guys are a little bit more professional than us who are going to be doing the show tomorrow, so you don't want to miss it.
Well, more connected, certainly to the NFL. Let's get into the waivers.
Put me in, Coach.
All right, it's bye apocalypse. 6 teams on bye in Week 9. The Bengals, Cardinals, Colts, Eagles, Giants, Jags. And so you've got a lot of moves to make, a lot of waiver wire implications. We're going to help you out. The Falcons, Cowboys, Chargers, and Titans, they're all coming back off of the bye. Those are the 4 teams you want to pay attention to as potential sneaky waiver ads because those teams were on bye last week. There's not a if you click the old last week sorting, you're not going to find any Falcons, Cowboys, Chargers, and Titans. So you may be able to sneak them off the wire. And then you got, 6 more teams in Week 11, 4 in Week 10. So it's time to navigate.
Yep.
All right, let's start at the wide receiver position. We'll get into some of the main waiver wire pickups first, and you guys can tell me who your favorites are and how much fab you'd spend or whether you'd use the number 1 waiver priority on them. One of the names that I've wanted to remember for this week was Keke Coutee, the wide receiver for the Houston Texans, because Will Fuller is out for the season. Now, Cutee's been Cutie Pie.
Yeah.
Has been dealing with a hamstring injury, didn't play in Week 8.
He's probably not going to play in Week 9.
So how do you look at him from a waiver perspective? Because
still worth a stash.
Deshaun Watson needs him.
Yeah, I mean, he is worth a stash because when he comes back, and you're going to have to hold on to him. I wouldn't play him in Week 10 if he's back, but I do believe when he's on the field, this offense, they need him. He's produced at a high level, and with Will Fuller being out, there's just going to be enough targets to where he's going to be a very fantasy-relevant player when he gets on the field. But you have to be a certain type of team, your record and your bench size and who your players are in order to take a 2-week stash at the wide receiver position. So while I think he's worth picking up for a lot of teams, he's certainly not a must. Like, you don't have to clog your roster with an injured wide receiver for the next 2 weeks if you don't want to.
Yeah, the interesting thing for him is the opportunity, it has to go up with Will Fuller being out, but he's been the slot guy. He's been the short yardage guy. What will the Texans do to replace Will Fuller on the outside, the speed? I mean,
does Braxton Miller get picked up anymore?
No, I mean, the guy on the actual roster would be undrafted Vincent Smith, who has some speed. I'm not saying I would pick him up. I'm just throwing that name out there because if Keke's not playing this week, I mean, if you're in a really, really deep league and there's none of these guys that we're talking about available, maybe you throw Smith on the back of your bench.
My favorite pickup this week is the Courtland Sutton ad for Denver.
I think this is a unanimous favorite pick.
Correct.
And what's ironic about bringing him up now is we don't know if Demaryius Thomas or Emmanuel Sanders are going to be traded before the deadline today. So we need to talk about it from both sides. But if you look at the snap percentage, the amount of snaps Courtland Sutton is getting, it's slightly below Demaryius Thomas, kind of in the same range as Demaryius Thomas over the last few weeks. He is the rising star of the team, and it makes sense for Denver to go get something for a player that's going to be a free agent in Demaryius Thomas, a big cap hit. Or I'm sorry, he's got 1 year left, doesn't he?
Yeah, I was just
1 year left.
That.
But look, he's not part of their future.
No.
And Courtland Sutton getting more opportunity this year to develop is important. And for fantasy owners, it's huge because Sutton is a touchdown monster. He is a big play monster. So how do you value Sutton? How do you adjust your bidding on Sutton based on whether or not a trade happens?
If a trade does happen, I always say 10% of the budget is usually my cap for a wide receiver because I'm always picking different guys up. I'm looking short term. But if DT is traded, I see Courtland Sutton as the chance to be a wide receiver 2 rest of season. And if you've got a guy that you can plug in and start him week in, week out, I'm willing to spend 20-25% of my budget on Courtland Sutton. But that's only, you will know by that time when you have to make your bid if Demaryius Thomas was traded. And if you're the Broncos, if I'm John Elway, I'd trade Demaryius Thomas for anything. Yeah. If you offer me a 5th rounder, I would say, yes, it's good for my team to get rid of the contract and give Courtland Sutton more work. We're not winning anything this year. It's just a win-win.
His contract, just for quick context, next year he would be a $17.5 million cap hit. Turning 32, you can easily argue that Thomas has lost part of his game, or they could just cut him for a 3.5 dead cap. So if they don't trade him, I would widely suspect that Thomas will be cut. So trade him for whatever you can get.
And if you're in a keeper league, I would bid up a little bit more too, because at the end of this season, Sutton could be a keeper-worthy type of guy for
Agreed.
sure.
Jay Glazer just talked about the fact that the Amari Cooper trade, him going for a 1, has overinflated a number of the asks around the league. So right now, a lot of teams are calling, but the prices are too high.
NFL GMs, Jerry Jones has already spent his first-round pick.
So you're saying Demaryius Thomas should go for Dallas's second-round pick. I hear you loud and clear.
Oh, that would be so great. That would be so great.
We fixed it.
Looking at some other wideouts, I want to bring up there's several names I want to bring up. Let's start with DJ Moore, rookie wideout in Carolina, just on the heels of Sutton. Last week was his highest snaps, I believe, on the season.
It was, yes. Second most routes run of the wide receiver position. It had to do with Torrey Smith not being on the field as
5
well
for 90.
as well as it's time. It's now time to get the first-round rookie wide receiver going as they make their push towards the playoffs. Their schedule is solid for fantasy wide receivers.
When you see that coming out of a bye, for the rookie to say, okay, we had our bye week, we're pushing forward with the rookie, that's a great sign.
Yes.
And now this week you get Tampa Bay.
Oh, yes.
I mean, this is DJ Moore is absolutely in the conversation. To me, it's so ironic as I looked through and I start picking out the names of who I would say are my primary pickups. They're all rookie wide receivers for me, other than one guy. It's like the week. This is the week of rookie wide receiver opportunity, at least, and seeing if they could come through. But DJ Moore is a great pickup against Tampa Bay, and he's got elite talent. And now if the opportunity is there with the matchup, that's the triumvirate.
I would say the what?
Did he say the triumvirate?
I think I did.
Is that a word?
That's why I had to stop and clarify. If Demaryius Thomas or Emmanuel Sanders are not traded, DJ Moore will become my favorite wide receiver pickup of the week.
That's a cool word, Jay.
Triumvirate?
Well, I said I kind of put an F in there accidentally.
It's a V, right?
Yes, triumvirate.
No, it's I'm giving
it's hard
you
to
credit.
say, but it is a good word.
It's a group of 3 men holding power.
Yeah,
That's
it's
like
the
this show.
trifecta. Oh, we're a triumvirate?
We are a triumvirate of power.
Triumphant triumvirate.
Yeah, of course we are. How interested
That was my band name
are you in
high school.
Devante Parker after 6 for 134
I know you
against the Jets?
You had a hot take on Friday's show.
What was my quote?
You were, quote, you'd rather be dead than pick him up. I will not go that far.
Now, I said that, but then this morning I saw how many players I had on bye.
Yeah.
And so I might be
Desperate
dead.
times.
I might be dead.
Look, Albert Wilson is gone for the season with the IR. Kenny Stills is still in limbo with his injury situation. Devante Parker came through for this team. I am interested. He gets to play against the Jets, who are not world beaters. 19.3 average depth of targets for Devante Parker. You want them air yards, and you got to at least show some interest with all the teams that are on bye.
Yeah, certainly. I agree. I'm not as hot on Devante Parker. I think there's better matchups this week, but the opportunity should be there.
Sure. Hey, before we jump into a couple more wide receivers, want to thank today's sponsor, StockX. Sneakerheads, listen up. You ever wonder how you can get the hottest new sneakers, the ones that barely hit shelves? The answer is StockX, a revolutionary new marketplace for buying and selling 100% authentic sneakers, streetwear, watches, handbags. You want to get the latest Yeezys. You want to get some Nike SBs like me, Supremes. You got to check out StockX. They use the same principles as the stock market to make buying and selling as safe and easy as possible. Best of all, StockX has removed all risk from buying and selling online. It's totally anonymous, and they have experts that verify every item. They make sure everything is 100% authentic. You can get from brands, luxury handbags like Louis Vuitton, Gucci, Rolex. You got to check out StockX and everything that's on there. So Foot Clan right now, you go to StockX.com/footballers. That's how you're going to get started. StockX, now you know.
And Foot Clan, like a lot of people, you might have balances on your credit cards and higher interest rates than you like. So why not turn those balances into one monthly payment of a lower fixed interest rate and start saving money? Lightstream offers credit card consolidation loans from 6.14% APR with AutoPay. You can get a loan from $5,000 to $100,000. You can even get your funds as soon as the day you apply because Lightstream believes that people with good credit deserve a great interest rate and no fees. We've heard good things from them and from people who have used them, and now our listeners can save even more with an additional interest rate discount on top of Lightstream's already low rates. The only way to get the discount is to go to lightstream.com/footballers. That's lightstream.com/footballers. It's subject to credit approval. Rate includes a 0.5% autopay discount. Terms and conditions apply. Offers are subject to change without notice. Visit lightstream.com/footballers for more info.
All right, talking about some of the guys coming off of the bye, let's talk about the Tyrell Williams, Mike Williams combo in Los Angeles. Right now, they're both under 50% owned. Who would you rather flex between the Williams bros, so to speak?
I would rather flex Tyrell. He's been the guy
Me
that
too.
has been, on fire. He's been looked to, but this is just not a matchup that, I'm super excited about. Seattle has, for all the pieces they've lost on their defense, they've gotten it together. They've not been good, matchups for quarterbacks, for wide receivers. I am not thrilled with Tyrell Williams this week. If you want to chase what he was doing right before the bye, you can. Like I said, there's a couple of rookies I'm probably more interested in this week.
Yeah, and between the two, Tyrell is still playing about – he's in the 80% snap range where Mike Williams is in that 70 to high 60s. So I'll just take the guy who has a little bit more opportunity for the offense.
Any other favorites?
Yeah, there's maybe 2.5 other favorites. Traquan's –
You're going to add half a guy?
Half a favorite.
Half a favorite.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh.
He's
a fave.
Yeah, exactly. So Traquan Smith, we
Of course,
talked about
if you
him.
went full three favorites, that'd be a triumvirate.
Oh, maybe I got to have 3 more. My triumvirate is Traquan Smith. He's got a high-scoring matchup against the Los Angeles Rams. I think Drew Brees will be able to find him. I know he only had 3 for 18 this last week, but
Drew Brees did nothing.
Drew Brees did nothing. They didn't need to. They beat the Vikings. I still like Traquan. I also like Marquez Valdez-Scantling. I'm fine staying with what he's been doing with Aaron Rodgers. Randall Cobb was back in the game. I assumed when that happened, Valdez-Scantling is going to disappear. He got a nice long touchdown again, and then the other guy is Chris Godwin.
Yes.
You want to talk about Chris Godwin?
Yeah, sure. He's available in about half of leagues, and the concern for Godwin was actually that he would just completely vanish once Jameis came back, but he's still got the targets. But he was an absolute touchdown machine with Ryan Fitzmagic. So, like I said, the guys at the wide receiver position for Tampa, they get a bump up in opportunity with Ryan Fitzpatrick because he over-targets the wide receiver, and this is what he's done his entire career.
All right, let me ask you a couple quick. Are you interested in Christian Kirk going on the bye?
No.
Not right now.
Brandon LaFell with that 92% snap percentage in Oakland?
No, I'm good.
No, still pass.
Robbie Anderson didn't play this past week. Maybe people forgot about him. Any interest?
Nah.
Slight, but it's just a stash.
Marquez Valdez-Scantling, you talked about him already.
I agree that he's worth it.
What if Cooper Kupp misses?
Oh, you're talking about Josh
Reynolds?
Josh Reynolds.
Multi-touchdown Josh Reynolds?
Touchdowns.
Yeah, 3 for 42 and 2. Too bad we didn't have a bet this week. All right, running backs. Let's talk about some favorites. For me, it's at the top of my list it's actually Josh Adams. Josh Adams is at the top of my list.
Okay.
He is. He's going on the bye, and so I think you get a discount, right? You pick up a guy for a stash. Look, it's hard to find running backs, and I trust two things when it comes to Josh Adams, running back for the Philadelphia Eagles. One, that I'm just not impressed with Corey Clement, Wendell Smallwood. Smallwood's been better. Clement's been barely used. But the things that I trust here are my eyes. Josh Adams is bigger, stronger. And then Doug Peterson has come out and said, look, he is the guy to replace LeGarrette Blount in this rotation. He has the most upside. He has the most unseen upside. And this is a good offense. And what do I want? I want a guy that has the opportunity to score the touchdowns. Last week, 9 for 61. He made big plays. And so if I'm trying to project at the position, yes, I can go, there are some other names. I can go sign a Frank Gore if I want about, 11 carries for maybe 50 yards. But I'm looking for some upside. So it does depend on your team and where your team's at and what you need. But my favorite guy is Josh Adams. He's got the bye week, then Dallas, New Orleans. He's a big boy.
I have a really hard time trusting Josh Adams. I mean, Wendell Smallwood has been a good fantasy asset over the last several weeks. I have him on my dynasty roster. I just can't get myself to start him. And Corey Clement, Josh Adams, Wendell Smallwood, I feel like if you start those guys, you always have a chance at a good game. But it's not like I feel like you have a 66% chance at a bad game, and one of those three will end up good. So I am not as high on you. I do agree.
You're not high on me?
That high as you on Adams. That I do agree that he looks like he's got the most juice. Yes. He looks the best of the three when I see him out there. We've always said Wendell Smallwood's a jag. He's just a guy. Corey Clement has been disappointing this season. For me, I'm sticking with the Oakland Raiders backfield, specifically Jalen Richard.
No. Jason, no.
Give it to us.
Krampus.
Yeah, no, I'm not
Douglas.
going with Doug Martin definitely got the work. He was pretty effective, decently effective. Surprisingly for him, effective.
13 for 72, or as we say, 72 yards closer to Christmas.
It's closer to Krampus.
Hide your kids.
Hide your kids.
Coming.
Krampus is coming.
He did have a fumble as well, but Jalen Richard has just been so involved in the passing game. I mean, you're talking about another, 8 for 8, I believe this last week. 8 targets, 8 receptions. And the amount of times he's had 7 or more receptions this year, that's crazy for a running back. They're going to need him in this passing game without Amari Cooper. I like Jalen Richard as a pickup. He's my number one.
I do want to mention the name Aaron Jones just in case he happens to be on your waiver wire because he would be my top pickup, but he's only available in like 30%. What is that fart sound?
That fart sound is he's not good.
Aaron Jones?
No, he's good.
He got double-digit touches, was on the field over 60% of the time, and for a running back by committee, over 60%.
17 fantasy points, 86 yards rushing, a touchdown.
And he makes a fart sound.
I said last week to start him.
Wait, now you're taking a victory lap with him after the fart sound?
Yes. Look, I'm being very consistent. Fart. No, this is very consistent. Last week I said no, that he was a good start, but now you're talking about what's his upcoming schedule?
New England,
Miami, Seattle. You love those matchups?
Yes.
The first two, yeah.
Look, he carries an immense amount of risk. Nobody's discounting that. I think the only thing we were trying to discount was your fart sound.
It's ridiculous.
When you fart sound, we're allowed to retort.
All right, I'll allow it.
Like I said, he would be my number one
season
guy.
high snaps.
He's probably not available. The name I want to throw out would be Elijah McGuire, running back for the Jets. He's come. This is still a stash, but he's coming off of the IR. The Jets need somebody to fill that Bilal Powell role, and Trenton Cannon is not the answer right now. Kansas City, Atlanta. Those are the next two matchups for the Jets. That certainly smells like a negative game script and one that are going to have to throw the ball in. So I'm interested in him. They were talking him up immensely over this offseason. They were talking about cutting Bilal Powell, but then he hurt his foot. And they like him enough that they brought him back, right? For a running back, you have to at least have faith in this player that he's part of your offense moving forward. So I have interest in stashing him and seeing what happens.
Yeah, I've stashed him in a league with an IR, waiting for him to return. Here, if you're on Bipocalypse, here's a name that I think is a good pickup. I think you'll be happy
to play this week. He
is infinite.
Oh, you're going there?
He is all. Frank Gore on a crazy full bye week where you're missing a lot of running backs is sitting out on most waivers as the clear-cut starting running back for the Dolphins. They play the Jets this week. That's the middle-of-the-pack matchup. He's probably going to get 15 carries. You could do worse on a bye week than Frank Gore.
Gore or Peyton Barber this week?
Yeah, Barber for me.
I like Peyton Barber more than Gore, especially rest of season, but I will probably have Frank Gore ahead of Barber in my rankings this week. Carolina's defense has been just really solid, and that's who Tampa Bay is playing this week.
Sure, the defense has been solid, but he's Fitzmagic. If the first few games comes to fruition,
when Fitzmagic was, just hot fire.
I know he's hitting on long
Peyton
touchdowns.
Barber did nothing.
I totally get it, but it looks like the offensive line is figuring some things out because Peyton Barber and the running game, they're actually getting things going. Ronald Jones, it's going to be a lost season. He's expected to miss a few games with his injury, so that only solidifies that Peyton Barber is the running back to own for Tampa. I'm more interested in Barber than Gore.
And this week is a week where let's talk bids and waiver priorities. There's nobody here. Everybody we talked about, it's like, okay. I'll just put them in an ordered list of who I would want the most. There's no one I'm going hard after. I mean, if you need a rest of season guy, to me, Jalen Richard will continue if you're in a PPR league to get work.
Agreed.
But I'm just placing bids. It's really dependent upon.
A lot of people need a win, though. A lot of people they have an opportunity to get a win because they and their opponents both have open bye week spots, and therefore, if you outbid somebody, it's a
twofer.
It's a twofer because you're keeping them away from your opponent.
That's exactly what I was about to say. Is it's team dependent on bye weeks, and look not just at your team but your opponent's team. It's great advice.
What if you're like 7-1, like I don't know, like my team? What do you do then from a philosophical standpoint if you've got a handful of buys? I mean, do you even care?
I would shut your laptop, walk away. I'm sure you're just gonna win.
Of the players we've talked about,
and Foot Clan, don't do that.
If you're grabbing someone to play this week, it's Krampus. He gets to play San Francisco. It's Krampus, or if Richard is there, I would rather have him as well. So it's the Raiders running backs.
This week,
are you interested in Nyheim Hines, Ito Smith, Devante
Hines,
Booker?
I mean, Ito Smith to me is still a guy I would want. He's
37% owned.
Yeah, I mean he's still available. He's getting the opportunity. He's got the Devonta Freeman role. He's just not that good.
He's okay. The running game for Atlanta has just been putrid. Andy, I would say if I have your team and I'm 7-1,
yes,
I'm making sure I get my handcuff if I have that Kareem Hunt, if I have Todd Gurley, the guy who are the high upside handcuffs, please be stashing them now.
At the tight end position, let's talk about Jack Doyle.
Yeah, add Doyle and log off.
He's only 25% owned, 6 or 70 and a touchdown last week on 7 targets. Now, what I do want to say is Look, I know the Doyle excitement is real right now, and I watched him use his invisibility cloak to stand in the middle of the field play after play. And I've seen the tweets, and I understand that Ebron had his snaps cut to 18%, and Doyle is at 75%. And none of that is to say that Jack Doyle is not a worthwhile pickup. And goodness, in the tight end landscape with gooses like Uzama and Njoku this past week and underwhelming players, he's start worthy, right? However, Eric Ebron doesn't help him, okay? And even if Eric Ebron gets 20% of the snaps, that 20%, 15 of those 20% might be inside the 20, where he is a monster weapon in the red zone. So it is not beneficial to Jack Doyle to have Eric Ebron, as productive as he's been, sharing snaps, sharing targets as T.Y. Hilton becomes healthier, when they get Ryan Grant back. I don't think it's all roses for Doyle. It's just I think you're going to have the same kind of inconsistencies from him as you do any of the middle tier guys.
Yeah, and it's also not to say that Eric Ebron goes away. I think Eric Ebron's going to be a fine play. I think you can probably start both of these guys in this tight end landscape. The hardest part about Jack Doyle and Eric Ebron is they're on bye this week.
Yeah.
So it might not help you. You might have another tight end on bye. Don't stash 2 bye week tight ends. Pick up someone else. You all know who my pickup is.
Yeah, it's Ed Dickson.
It's Ed Dickson. I mean, if you need a guy that you want to take a shot at, look, I know we've talked about it for a long time, given grief both directions. There is a chance with Ed Dickson that he is an important weapon in that offense, and that rest of season he's one of those 6 to 10 range tight ends the rest of the way. And I don't think there's a lot of those left on waivers. So he would be my pickup this week for sure.
It's 100% Jack Doyle for me. I'm not going to argue that Eric Ebron hurts him, of course, but he's a highly targeted tight end, and that's hard to get. Ed Dickson was great. He had 2 targets and 2 receptions. Meanwhile, Jack Doyle, week 1, 10 targets. He's averaging in his 3 games where he was injured in one of them, he's still averaging about 7 targets a game. For Andrew Luck targets on top of that. So he's, for me, as I would 100% stash him through his bye week.
All right, turning our attention to the defenses in this upcoming week, are there favorites that you have that you want to pick up? Mike?
You smashed that claim button on the Kansas City Chiefs this week for me.
Facing Cleveland?
Facing Cleveland with all that tumult, the Kansas City Chiefs defense is going to sack Baker probably 4 to 5 times.
I don't disagree with that. And even if Baker I believe Baker's going to have a pretty good game overall by sheer volume and garbage time. Even if that's the case, that many passing attempts, that many dropbacks, mistakes happen, fumbles happen, things happen.
I like the Jets. I know they're on the road, but you've got a banged-up Miami Dolphins. I don't expect this to be a game that gets out of control. And the Jets' defense has been surprisingly
they're okay.
Yeah, they're not great, but every single week they surprise me.
I like Miami's defense.
Yeah, I honestly, whenever you've got those games where it looks like, how are they going to score a lot of points? I'm fine playing both defenses in those
45-point over-under in that game.
Yeah, Miami's a 3-point favorite at home.
Smash the under on that.
I believe that's the lowest number of the week. So,
wow.
So
that's a good week.
One of the game I want to get your guys' opinion.
Tennessee-Dallas, Monday Night Football, 41.
I want to get your opinion. 41, yeah, Dallas's defense there. Well, I want to get your opinion on Denver's defense at home against Houston this week. That's one of the lower numbers of the week. And Denver is going to face Deshaun Watson without Will Fuller and maybe without Keke Coutee. I think that Denver can be a productive play this week.
No, I love that play. That's a great one. I would probably put that above the New York Jets and above Kansas City.
Yeah. All right. It's going to be very, very interesting to see just exactly what Deshaun Watson can do without Will Fuller, because it's small sample size, obviously, for Deshaun Watson.
And he looked great last week.
Yeah, but a lot of
running the ball though. I mean, he ran around, got out of the pocket.
Sure,
but
when he's running around out of the pocket, he doesn't have Will Fuller breaking free.
Hey, look, I found all these drops on here. Brooks put them on. I was supposed to use them earlier. Watch this one.
Wide receivers.
See? I was supposed to use that earlier when we talked about wide receivers.
Well.
And then there was this one too.
Running backs.
Oh, very nice.
Now we're just playing the hits.
Yeah. So
I just wrote a note to make sure I put them in there, and I did.
Good for you, Brooks.
Good work. But you didn't micromanage me to the degree that I knew.
And
you
that's
didn't give me the.
And that's on you.
And that's on you. Or
100%.
Baby Josh.
It's on Baby Josh.
Yeah, for sure.
But watch this. Watch this.
Full stream ahead.
Took care of that, didn't I, Brooks?
Well done.
Was that pretty nice?
I'm actually super proud of you in that moment.
Thank you. Streaming quarterback options. I just mentioned him. I'm going to go with Baker Mayfield. Free from Hugh Jackson, and the often demanding.
Did you see the
Todd
quote?
Haley?
See the quote about inferring that Baker Mayfield is not going to miss Hugh Jackson?
Yeah, I did. I really wish Hard Knocks had continued through the season, and I could have seen what happened in that those offices yesterday. But look, Kansas City's going to score on Cleveland. They always do, and Baker has had some very productive enough weeks of late, and you have options for him. So I'm going to take Baker Mayfield as a streaming option. There's not a lot of great unowned quarterback plays this week, and Baker's about 42% owned and taking on Kansas City. So if you can avoid a bunch of mistakes, I think you've got 25 points in the bank. I mean, I do. I think
Sure.
a couple touchdowns from Baker and some garbage time, and you'll be okay. You'll be okay.
My stream, he's definitely unowned because he just got his starting gig back. The magic is back. The best 3-game start for a fantasy quarterback in history. Ryan Fitzmagic. Never tell me the odds. I don't care about the matchup.
Taking the crazy eyes.
Against Carroll. Yes, crazy eyes, Fitzmagic.
So let me ask you, if you look, Luck, Wentz, Dalton, all on bye this week. Fitzpatrick is out there. So how do you approach that? How do you approach that if you want to pick up if he's got the upside of being that good?
Sure.
How much are you willing to spend on a bye
Not
week
much,
fill-in?
because the downside is he plays 1 week, and then Jameis wins
Half a game.
He could even play bad enough to get replaced.
Yeah, that's the downside and the risk of Ryan Fitzpatrick. But the upside is three straight games of over 400 yards, at least 3 touchdowns in each of those games. So I'm interested. I'm gonna stream him if I'm in the bye-apocalypse. I'm not dropping my quarterback. I'm not dropping Wentz, but I'm gonna play Fitzpatrick.
Just playing with some kerosene.
Yeah.
You can have a lot of fun.
Hey,
You can get really hurt. Okay, so Fitzmagic.
kids, don't play with kerosene.
I'm going to go ahead this week. I'm sending something in.
Uh-oh.
Send in the car. Send in the car.
We have not been able to send anything in lately. It's been
No.
in park.
I'm
Rusting.
I'm going with Derek Carr. I believe he's a really good option this week. I am trusting that he is going to have a good game. Here's what I like about Derek Carr. What does Derek Carr no longer have? Right now, he no longer has
A number 1 wide receiver.
Herpes.
Oh,
we cannot confirm or deny that one.
What?
But
I
yes,
didn't know
also-
where you were going.
No, I
Also
was-
there forever.
yes, they are. So
That's
yes,
true.
he doesn't have Amari
Incurable.
Cooper. He does not have Amari Cooper anymore, which that's sad or that's good. Who knows?
What is
But
happening
more-
in your brain?
More
I don't know,
than
man.
anything, he does not have any pressure. They're supposed to lose. He lost his wide receiver 1. The pressure coming off of him, off that MVP season where they were a Super Bowl contender, got injured, left. It was like, oh, the season was lost. Coming the next year, the pressure was unfathomably high for him.
So
and
you're
he
calling him
collapsed.
mentally weak.
Sure. I mean,
That's what you're inferring.
I am inferring that the pressure has got to him. He has looked poor. And this last week, he actually looked good. Instead of checking everything down, he still does plenty of checkdowns, Jalen Richard, but he was airing it out. He looked good.
For the
And
first time ever.
Well, yeah.
not for the first time ever.
He
Look
is
this year.
he's dead last in the NFL in average depth of target with
Right.
6.2. What's funny about that, and by the way, Drew Brees is at 6.3, so that's not very different. Derek Carr is the second best completion percentage in the NFL.
Well, that-
72%.
when you're throwing 6 yards ago.
But we give Drew Brees credit for 77%.
Yeah.
His is at the same average depth of target.
Here's the reality is Derek Carr now has very little pressure. He can spread the ball around, and he's got a good matchup. And when you go back and look, when you look at the weeks, he's faced tough competition. He's had bad games against the Rams D. He's had bad games against the Seattle Seahawks D that has been very good this year, the Chargers. When he played Cleveland, Cleveland, he put up 437 yards and 4 touchdowns. Indianapolis last week, 3 touchdowns, 244 yards. Now he's got San Francisco.
Yeah.
I think this is a winnable
Send in the
matchup.
car.
I'm sending him in.
Send
All
in
right,
the car.
what is Brooke?
The matchup is good. Yeah, sorry, I was not laughing at your take. I think Derek Carr's a very, very fine streaming candidate. The news
Which
is
one, are you laughing at the fact that all backup quarterbacks?
Yeah, these backup quarterbacks who are positioned, you are positioned to take over a start for an NFL team.
Chad Kelly last
change
week.
your life. We got breaking news on Sleeper here that Kyle Lauletta, the backup quarterback for the Giants,
Who was getting more reps?
Yeah, earlier in the week it was reported he was getting more reps. Allegedly was arrested for a traffic violation early this morning.
Super duper.
Come on,
Chad
man.
Kelly
It's
last
the-
week.
It's the pressure. As soon as it's like, oh, you might get a chance, the pressure's on.
Also, AJ Green in a walking boot.
Ooh.
That just came through. So you saw at the very end of the game, toe injury. They were examining it. The concern there is whether or not it's turf toe. Now, the bye week came at the best possible time, but it's disconcerting.
The best possible time for him, the worst possible time for fantasy owners because the Bengals will not say a single word about it.
Well, and by the time that you get him back or you know something, maybe your trade deadline is already passed, maybe you're unsure of what you got for the future. My dynasty team is falling apart.
Yes.
At the seams.
Yes. You actually scored great this week. You were one of the top scorers.
Yeah, I lost to you.
Yes.
Because Rob Gronkowski has not delivered this year.
Yeah. Hey, we have our Week 8 injury recap article on the website as well. So if you want to, sometimes you miss the late game injuries. Very important, and Matthew Betts does an awesome job writing that up.
No trade news during the show today, so you're going to have to tune into the Halloween episode tomorrow and listen to those three guys
Go to YouTube.
break it all down. One final note before we leave, I want to tell you about a new podcast. Each season of the hit podcast Origins with James Andrew Miller gets you backstage and inside the minds of some of the biggest success stories in our culture. The current season takes you behind the scenes of Saturday Night Live.
Oh.
Season 44. And you can binge listen to the previous seasons on the origins of a champion, Nick Saban and Alabama's Crimson Tide, the origins of Sports Center, the origins of Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Oh,
Fun
pretty good.
Yeah, so check it out, Origins with James Andrew Miller, now available on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. Another cool podcast that you can check out. And we'll be back tomorrow. We have some very special...
No, we will not. Someone else will be back tomorrow.
Well, the show. In name, the show will be
Fantasy
back
Footballers
tomorrow.
will be here. Draft.com/ballers if you're going to play any of that daily. We'll see you tomorrow or Thursday. I don't know. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.